Thank you so much for joining me here today. So I want to get started by having you introduce yourself and your role here at the University of Michigan.
My name is Arthur Lupia. I'm the Hal R. Varian Collegiate Professor of Political Science. I teach courses on persuasive politics and on strategy and debate, and I do research on how people make decisions when they don't know very much.
So one of the reasons we asked you here is because you have a particular expertise in engaging in policy and advocacy work. So can you talk for just a minute about why you think that this realm is really important and what motivates you to do this type of work?
Yeah, I could start with my motivation. My motivation is to take the great opportunities that we have at the University of Michigan, the great people and the array of talent, and try and use them to increase people's quality of life, both in this community, across the country, and around the world. And topics like science communication and trying to make elements of science relevant to policymakers is a really important way to do this, because in so many cases, science is our last best defense against wishful thinking, and it's a real way to help individuals and groups achieve their goals more effectively and efficiently.
So that addresses what motivates you. Can you talk also about a little bit about how you think the impacts of your work really make a difference?
Yeah. So I'm usually brought into an organization to either help them communicate something they know more effectively, to try and stay true to the science, but make it accessible and meaningful to a population that's not so familiar with it. So when we make that happen, we take science that happens in a lab or in somebody's office and we turn it into decisions and actions that change quality of life. And so I find that really meaningful, and that's I do quite a lot of that.
You talk about how you make things accessible. Can you talk for just a minute about what that philosophy or approach looks like? Like how do you do that translation work?
Well, one of the things that comes out of my research and a lot of the people that I work with is just how limited human attention is. And for that reason, if we're going to convey science, the first thing we have to do is really listen to the people that we're trying to speak to and understand what are their core concerns, what are their most important aspirations and fears. And if we can take our science and speak directly to those and help people understand how they can live the type of life they want to lead, you get more interest in science.
Absolutely.
As opposed to hitting them over the head with abstractions that they can't even relate to.
Absolutely.
So the key thing is really trying to make it urgent, simple, and direct so that people will become interested in the topic and maybe want to learn more.
So urgent, simple, and direct. So those are great heuristics. And I can also see how they'd be challenging to apply. So what kinds of challenges do you run into when you try to instruct people to make things urgent and direct?
Many people are very keen to tell their own story. They're really keen to talk about their research, and that's a wonderful thing. But when you're trying to talk to people who aren't familiar with the science or maybe skeptical of it, the key thing is to try and meet those people where they are.
Sure.
You can't even ask them to go halfway because there's so much competition for attention. If you're not speaking to someone's core concerns or the aspirations that they have that day, you're going to lose the competition to attention to flashy videos or Pokemon or other things that people can pay attention to. So I feel like, my job is to really help people stay true to the science, but find like metaphors, analogies, and examples that convey the true content to someone who doesn't know that they might need it yet. But once you do that, they realize that science is relevant to me.
Yeah.
Tell me more about it. And that's the moment I'm trying to create.
So it's the moment of the light bulb going off and people like initiating that curiosity.
Yeah. One of the things about learning is you can't force people to learn. The learning happens by someone deciding to co-produce a narrative with you. So I try to create a situation where people see their own stake, their own future in something that I'm talking about. And if they're so motivated by what I'm saying, they'll start telling the story with me. They'll start trying to fill in the blanks of my narrative. And if they're so engaged, the things that they're thinking about are more likely to stick when I leave the room. And that's where the ideas become theirs. So I'm trying to create this moment, this circumstance where people want to co-create, co-produce a science narrative with me. That's how learning really works.
Ah, I love that philosophy. So to switch gears a little bit and to talk a little bit more in specific detail about the types of audiences that you work with, especially in the policy and advocacy space.
Yes.
So can you tell me who it is that you're actually interacting with when you're trying to do this type of work?
I do a lot of different things. So I have a number of leadership positions with science organizations in Washington. I have multiple leadership positions at the National Academies of Science, at AAAS, the organization that makes Science Magazine, at the National Science Foundation. And in all those cases, I'm trying to help people with really great ideas and important content but not that much experience in trying to talk to broader audiences. I'm trying to help them build an internal understanding of the importance of talking to other groups and then an idea of how to do it.
Absolutely.
I also work with a range of government organizations that produce statistics about what they're doing, and yet people can't breathe the statistics. They can't eat the statistics, and so they don't understand maybe that a government program that can help them really exists. So I encourage those governments to try and build human scale narratives that stay true to the statistics, but that someone can actually hear. And so I try to help people who know a lot about science tell their stories in ways that their target audiences can really relate.
Absolutely. So you have a couple of different audiences there, and I guess I would be curious to know why it is that they work with you. Like, why did they bring you in? I suspect that it's something to do with the way that you approach this construction of narratives on human scales and that type of thing. But what are the types of things that they're trying to do in constructing communication?
Well, I think that one of the reasons that people bring me in specifically is because I'm not trying to sell them anything. I have a background in science communication. I have a background in strategic communication and in credibility and how these things are built. So when I'm brought into a room, I walk in with leverage, and that's really important because I look at what they're trying to do. I listen to what they're trying to accomplish. I gather data and evidence on what they're actually doing, and then I compare those things. And if someone has brought me into a room for this purpose, the most important thing I can say is, this isn't working. I appreciate what you're doing. I resonate with your message, but this isn't working and we have to change it. And so those are the moments where I think, I'm not sure people like having me around at those moments, but those are the moments that that's why you bring me into a room.
Yep.
I'm not a salesperson. I'm not going to try. I don't want to help anybody pull the wool over anybody's eyes. I want to help people that have content that can improve quality of life, learn how to communicate it better, and that's what I'm called in to do.
Absolutely. So then I guess I'd like to sort of switch gears and to talk a little bit about what kinds of goals you have when you're interacting with legislative bodies in particular. So what do you think that they want from you in interacting with you as an expert, and what are you trying to get across to them?
Yeah. So I've had the good fortune of talking to hundreds of legislators in different countries. And one thing to know, particularly as you get high up the legislative food chain, is a member of Congress or a president of a country is meeting people all the time. And almost everybody they meet with outside of their inner circle is asking them for something.
Sure.
And so if a scientist or a science communicator walks into a room with the idea that they're going to ask a legislator for something, they run a real risk of turning into white noise. They will just sound like everybody else. So what I try to do and what I advise people to do is understand this legislator and what are their core objectives and who are their big constituencies and what are the things they're worrying about right now. And can you find an intersection between your science and that thing they're trying to do or their staffs are trying to do today? Because if you hit that intersection, you have an audience and they'll bring in their staff and they'll say, we need to work on this. But if you're trying to sell them something that isn't of immediate relevance to them that day, you're probably just background noise. They'll be polite, they'll shake your hand, and when you leave, they will just go on to the next things. So I'm trying to tap into, how can I help this legislator do what they need to do today to build a trust relationship where maybe if I do that enough times, they'll come to me and start asking for broader advice.
I guess just to restate to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, you would suggest that people really get to know who they're talking to and then align their goals with the goals of their audience. Is that accurate?
It is. And one mistake that scientists make, I think, is a legislator doesn't care about how smart you are or your PhD or the technology. What they really want to know is, can you help them or their staff achieve a core problem?
Yeah.
And so if I devote myself to helping that legislator solve their problem, that is the basis of a relationship that we can then have to talk about bigger science things. But if I try to hit them over the head with my alleged intelligence, they don't care.
Absolutely. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I really appreciate you sharing those insights about your experience working with legislators, and I really appreciate you coming in today.
No, thank you for having me.